Hello, everybody. Hope everybody can hear me. I'm just waiting for a couple of people to come in, and then I will start. I will start the conversation. Well, I'm just going to start. Um, this is my first episode. Um, my name is Lorinda Hunley Farrell. I am 45 years old, and I live in Maryland. I am originally from Buffalo, New York, born and raised. Um, I moved here about 2003 after I got out the military. Um, so I've been here ever since. Um, I just wanted to get on here. I'm a little nervous, um, but I just wanted to get on here and share my story from my childhood to adulthood. And what I'm going to start off with is what some people don't know is I was raised by my father. So a lot of people know, but a lot of people do not know that I was raised by my dad. Um, um, big, big influencer in my life. He's my dad. Um, and so he was raising me at a time it really wasn't heard of. So I just want to give out a shout to my dad for everything. So I will start off from the very beginning about the episode is called The Daughter. So The Daughter is from when I was born up to a certain part in my childhood. There will be 6 episodes. This is episode one. And then every Sunday at 7 o'clock, I will do a different episode in a different part of my life. It is okay to ask me questions. Um, at the end, I will answer anything, or if you didn't understand what I was saying, I'm so happy to clear it for you, or maybe you just want to ask me questions, and I'm totally fine with that. So, I was raised, as I said, I was raised and born in Buffalo at Sisters Hospital at 11:24 a.m. to my mom and my dad. I will say they were young parents. It is what it is. Um, I grew up in the beginning part with my mom, but my dad was always there. I want to make that very clear. My dad was always there from the very beginning. Not only was there my parents, there was also my grandmother, Beatrice, who has now gone on, my big mama, Wilhelmina, who is now going on, and it was my aunt Celeste. I had a host of aunts and cousins that were um, also helping raise me. Um, at by 8 or 9, my dad did get full custody of me. Um, so I was living with him up until the time I was 21 and I left for the military. And my dad raised me at a time where it really wasn't heard of a man getting full custody of a child, let alone a daughter. um, the parts of my childhood I do want to say is that even though you may not start off right, does not mean you can't end off right. I am a testimony of how you have people praying for you on a regular basis. And the way I was raised and my mindset and just the people I have behind me, it is very possible. I am not saying anything, I don't want to say anything to bash anybody, but I have to speak what my truth is, and that's real and raw. Um, Growing up was tough for me in a lot of ways. Many know that being raised by a single dad or single parent period is not easy. It's not that my mom was not in my life, it's just that she couldn't be at the time. But as a child or a little girl growing up, you don't quite understand that. And I deal to this day, and I've dealt with abandonment issues. And I'm 45, and I still say I have abandonment issues. Um, and it's not to put my mother down, but it's just what my truth is. It was always hard. I would go to my cousins' houses a lot on my dad's side, and I would have a great time. But they had their mom, and I dealt with that a lot because I wish I had the same thing. And I struggled really, really, really bad because I just felt like, shouldn't everybody have their mom, regardless if we lived in the same household or not? Um, so it began to make me depressed as a kid. I didn't know quite what my feelings was, but I knew it wasn't it wasn't normal, and I started to feel not normal. Um, you could I want to say you could have everything under the sun, and I did. I was a pretty spoiled child. My dad spoiled me a lot. I had everything. I had TV, phone in my room, well, a cord that we shared between two rooms. I had CD players, big bedroom, beautiful room, clothes. I had everything. I had the family. It was just I was missing the aspect of something that nobody else could feel but her. Um, in her way, she tried, so I would never say that she didn't try. But for me, it just wasn't enough because as a kid, you just don't understand why you're never around. I see my aunts with their kids, see my cousins with their kids, and I used to think what was so wrong with me. You didn't want to be around. I didn't quite understand that. And I struggled and I struggled and I struggled, and I didn't tell a lot of my feelings because a lot of times when you hear the title I have, No Longer Invisible, this is why I said that because I used to feel invisible to a lot of people. And not saying that it was done purposely, I felt very invisible. I would hear people talk about me, talk around me, but who really talked to me about a lot of my feelings? And I'm not blaming anybody for it, but I was a little girl struggling to because I was wanting something so bad and I couldn't obtain it. So I was I went to this one school called 74, and my dad had to pull me out of that school because I was fighting a lot because people would tease me like you don't have no mother and all this stuff, and that's not true. I very well had a mother. I came from somewhere, and so I was starting to fight. Um, I was doing things I shouldn't have been doing, and it was all out of frustration because I didn't know another way to take it out, and so I was fighting, and I became angry, and none of this was towards my dad. It was just like I was irritated, because I couldn't understand what was happening. Like, why why is she not here? Then she moved, not far, um, but it was far enough for me not to understand. I just wanted her to be closer. And then that was another thing to deal with. So my dad kept me pretty busy and active in things, but it was that void. It was still that void as a little girl. But when my mom was here, I'm just gonna keep it real. Not as like I said. Um, it was things that happened that should have never happened. And my dad was a good dad. Well, is a good dad. I don't want to say was, is. But I was so scared to say things because I didn't want people to be mad at me for that reason. I used to always feel like everything was already my fault. I used to feel like I was a waste of time. I felt like, what was the point? I used to feel like, I don't know why I'm here. I couldn't find a purpose even as a little kid. Um, but I will say this: the one purpose I did have was my big mama. Big mama was 4 foot like 11, and I'm still scared of that lady to this day, and she's long gone. But it was this relationship that we had was so incredible. I had her until I was 15, and a lot of times when I just wanted to get away, my dad would always take me to Big Mama house, and it was something comforting about Big Mama. Um, Even now, even though she's not here, it's like when I think about her, I go into like a soothing mode, and she, I felt like I was number one to her. So when she passed away in 1994, intellectually, I know people leave. Okay, I understand that. But it didn't make sense to me that she left. I felt like she left me. Like, why would you leave me? Like, you told me you would never leave. Like, I knew better intellectually, but I just had a hard time. And I had just finished 8th grade, about to go to high school. So grateful for my cousin Nicole because she was born in July. So my focus kind of turned to Nicole because I even at 15 I knew she would never have that big mama experience. So even to this day, as old as Coley is, I still tell her stories about Big Mama because she was just such a pivotal person to me. And she got me through a lot of things. Even when she yelled at me, when she gave me a whooping, when she put me on punishment, she threw shoes at me. I didn't care. It's Big Mama. Big Mama could do whatever she want. I knew she didn't play, so she was my lifeline to a lot of things. Um, and she would take me shopping. Her and my aunt Queenie, I would be with them, the two ladies, and I would have a great time. And I just felt they would always include me in their little stuff, and I just felt so. Even though they were, of course, it was a huge age gap. I just felt so comfortable. That's when I would never feel down or depressed. Um, and when I'm saying depressed, I did not recognize, of course, at that age that how depressed I was. And I'm going to keep iterating this. This has nothing to do with my dad because he did what he did. He did something when that was not heard of in the 80s and the early 90s. But my dad gave me everything, but he just couldn't give me that one thing, and that wasn't on him to do it. I did have a lot of jealousy of my cousins um, back then because it's like I would see them go with their mom, or oh, my mom taking me school shopping, and I would do my school shopping at Burgard because my dad worked at a high school, so I didn't have to pay for a lot of stuff. So you know, even having my children going school shopping and doing that type of stuff was a big deal to me because I didn't have that with my mom. So I always I probably drove my kids crazy because I think I was too over involved in everything. But it was because I was almost trying to fill the void of what I was missing as a little girl. Um, I would be with my dad a lot. Um, Everybody know they would see the Camaro, they would see Rennie in the middle console. You know, it was always it was a Don and Rennie show. That's what it was. That's why I said, you know, my whole childhood was not horrible because a lot of people stepped in, but it was also a part of me that nobody could feel. And the one person you want to want you, and not saying that I wasn't wanted, it's it's hard to accept because the most powerful person in your life is the same sex parent. So when I had my kids, I was very cautious on things that I did with them, and it was all intentional. And I just wanted my kids to never wake up and feel like mommy's not here or mommy will never be there. My daughter's probably gonna kill me for saying this, but she called me the other day and she said, Mom, she said, I was just on the line of I was out in the world and I realized I can call my mommy. That's what I wanted. So to know that I was able to give it to my daughter was awesome. Um, but going back as far as the childhood, um, I was sad a lot. And I used to never want to tell my dad because one, I didn't want to think it was him, but I just had a lot of anger. I had a lot of anger. And I would lie a lot. And I would lie for stupid reasons and sometimes no reason because I felt like I got the most attention that way. I got the longest attention that way. That's not the right way to go about it, but in my mind, that's what I did. And so I I knew I would irritate my dad, but that's just what I did. Like there's always an explanation of doing something. You can't say I would say I don't know, but that wasn't true. I just did it because one, I was irritated. That's the only way I knew how to take it out, even though that doesn't make sense. That's just what I did. Um, Growing up, my dad put me in dance. I went to Performing Arts High School. I went to PA, class of '98. 15. Um, Big Mom was gone. High school. Um, um, my dad, I would go back and forth to see my mom, which was cool. But it came a time where there was some words that was exchanged. And being in a vulnerable state that I was, I didn't see a purpose. And my dad was at work, and I had just came home from dance class, and my dad couldn't reach me on the phone. And I took all these pills because I just wanted to end the pain. I didn't know another way to end the pain. I didn't I didn't want to disappoint anybody, but I felt like such a big disappointment. Um, and I remember my dad coming home, and I believe I was on the floor and had to take me to I remember ECMC, and they had to pump my stomach. And I heard he called my mom, and my mom and my stepdad came. I felt like maybe she cared. Um, And then I had to go to therapy and, figure this out. That's not that I really wanted to do that. It was just, I did, but I didn't. And I just didn't know another way. And that is definitely, I am not promoting that at all. Um, I was just this kid that was just struggling, looking for her to love me. And I had to learn that people can love you, but loving you will not always look like the way you want it to. And I have to accept that that's okay because people can't love the same way. Because we have to remember a lot of people come from trauma as well. And so they do the best they can with what they have. And I totally get that now being older. But from before, I just didn't understand. And please know this is no way bashing my mom. Okay? It is no way bashing my mom. Um, but that's just my truth and my hurt and my pain. Um, so going through that, I don't believe I ever seen my dad that upset before. I'm my dad's only child, so I have no idea the feeling that he had when that happened. And once I kind of came out of that, I tried to get back into life, and then high school just bullied a lot. Um, I didn't say anything again because I didn't want to be a problem. I got bullied real bad from 10th grade to 12th grade. Um, it is not as bad as it was when it is now because of cyberbullying, but it was pretty bad. Um, I could have done better in school. I did okay, merit row. I did all right. But it's a part of me that wanted to be this daughter for my dad. And I wanted to be this exceptional daughter for my mom because then she would pay attention. But that's a job. That's why I felt like I came into this life with a job. To feel like you are never enough. And I still struggle with that at 45. I hide it by being silly. I hide it by working. I hide it by it just diving into my kids'